My name is Buzzy Green. But I'd like to tell you a little story tonight. It's more of a, I don't know, it's a personal story. We've been hearing personal stories about a particular one individual. This story really is about what I consider to be a heroic city. It's also a story about a heroic yeshiva that is in that city, the Hesder Yeshiva. And it's a heroic story about the men and women that attend that particular yeshiva and midrashah. The city is the city of Sderot, for those of you who have heard me talk about it. And I always ask this, and Phyllis gets mad at me, how many of you have ever visited Sderot? Okay, that's more. Very good. The Sderot Hesder Yeshiva is in the middle of that town. And it's kind of what you would call the epicenter of many, many things that happen in Sderot. It's actually an incredible town. And the yeshiva is immersed in the day-to-day lives of the people and the activities, as I said, of everything. The town started kind of like back in the 1990s, early 1990s, I believe. And the yeshiva came in 1995. Very, very small town, very small yeshiva. Interestingly enough, probably nobody, including myself, ever heard of Sderot before 2001. We all know why, or maybe we don't all know why. That's when the first rockets fell, 2001, 22 years ago. Since then, tens of thousands of rockets, missiles, incendiary kites, and many other objects, whatever they could think of to throw over the border, have been launched at southern Israel, and basically having Sderot as its center. They always said, we want to make Sderot a ghost town. Well, even though it was the prime target, Sderot grew, the yeshiva grew, and in the last 22 years, since then, on October 7th, 2023, Shabbos Simchas Torah, there were 35,000 residents in this little hick town called Sderot. Has great falafel places too, let me tell you. The yeshiva itself also grew from about 50 young men, and now there are 650 young men on 2 campuses, and there are approximately 80 to 100 young women learning in the midrashah. The growth was in spite of the rockets, in spite of everything that's going on, in spite of what everybody says about why would you live down there. Some of it I know, I feel it because I've been there, has to do with the spirituality of what is going on in Sderot. Just so happens the mayor, Mayor Davidi, and the deputy mayor are graduates of the Hesder Yeshiva. The chief rabbi of Sderot is a graduate of the Hesder Yeshiva. And he runs a Beis Din, which is headquartered out of the yeshiva for the entire area around that southern part of Israel. Well, as we all know, many places were overrun, but the city was also overrun on that fateful Shabbos morning at around 6:30 in the morning. Many places got hit very, very hard. Sderot is a little bit different because it's a city. It's not a kibbutz, it's not where they could go house to house just murdering people. In a city, they had to have what they called their targets. Now, many of you, I'm sure, have heard, it's written that all these guys that came in, they all had detailed maps of every place they needed to go. Every house in those kibbutzim, how many people even lived in the houses. But in Sderot, it's different, as I said. They had a map, and their map actually had 2 things on it. The police station and the yeshiva. Well, guess what? The police station is essentially right across the street from the yeshiva. So there they were fighting first, and it just so happens that at the yeshiva, they have a minhag, every Simchas Torah, getting up at 6 in the morning, going to daven, and by 6:30, 6:45, 7 o'clock, all the young men go out, and they start dancing through the streets from shul to shul to shul in Sderot, doing hakafas. Of course, on that fateful morning, they heard a lot of shooting outside, they heard gunfire, and they knew something wasn't right. So the ones who had guns went out. Again, if you know at Hesder Yeshiva, there are some guys that are learning, some guys that are in the army at that point. There are married people that are in the army but also teaching in the yeshiva. So the guys that were there that had guns went out and joined in the battle. Interestingly enough, they kept the terrorists kind of quartered around the police station across the street, and then of course the police station was overrun. But that's where they were. They were headquartered there. And miracle of miracles, it came out the day after or 2 days after when they were really cleaning up that they had thrown a hand grenade at the back gate of the yeshiva, and the hand grenade had never gone off. So they never got in to where there were 500, at that point probably about 400 young men in school. They also sent out the medical EMT squads and first responders to help with the wounded. There were stories about the first ones who were killed in Sderot were actually a minibus of elderly people who were going on a day trip to the Dead Sea. I heard this again today. They were on a day trip to the Dead Sea, and they basically were all slaughtered as they came out of the bus. Some of our rabbis and students from the yeshiva were also seriously injured, but thank God no one perished from the yeshiva. There were many injuries in Sderot. And the town is, I'm sorry to say, exactly for the first time ever in 22 years, what Hamas wanted. It is a ghost town. Out of the 35,000 people who live in Sderot, 6,000 of them being children, there are approximately a little less than 5,000 still remaining in the town. They have been evacuated by the army, by the government, and they're living in different hotels. Tomorrow I'll get an update because one of the head rabbis is going around to the different hotels in Yerushalayim to talk to the people from Sderot. We know that the police station fell, we know all these things, but what we also know is that Rabbi Fendel came out and said that whatever Hamas did, never, ever, ever will drain the people of Sderot. They will come back stronger, the yeshiva will come back stronger, and God willing, with the IDF, and what hopefully we all believe and hope the IDF will do, that they'll be able to go back and live down in Sderot and those towns around them. I have two stories quick to finish with. One is somewhat light, and then the second one's a little interesting. The first story is today I was on a national Zoom with Rabbi Ari Katz, who's the head of public relations for the yeshiva, and he was recounting how he had just driven his son back to his unit. Ari Katz grew up in Gush Katif, so he certainly has an interesting perspective on the south of Israel. He drove his son back. He lives in Ofakim, I believe, and the son lives in Kiryat Gat. I believe that is correct. And he took his son back, who was on a 12-hour furlough, and he asked the son when he was dropping him off, "What can I do for you? I understand I can pray, but what can I do for you that really would make you guys happy, make you happy, make your unit happy?" He's in a medical unit. He said, "You know what, Abba? I'll tell you what could really make us happy and really make it good for us at the moment down here." He said, "If you could find some good people who would donate approximately $500 total so that we could have a barbecue for my whole platoon, whatever it is, in the next couple of nights, that would be great." So just before I finish, I want you to know, I'm already going to give the first 100, and before I leave tonight, I expect to have the other 400 in my hands from other people. But the second story is a bit more harrowing. This is a true story of a young man, and nobody really knows at the moment who it was, who scrolled on the wall of his yeshiva dorm room that fateful morning. And there are pictures of it on the site or whatever. "We are here on Shabbat, October 7th, 2023, during the fighting," and he called it Operation Swords of Iron, so I don't know how that got in there, but "all of us here love each other. If we don't survive, be strong. It's full of terrorists, rockets, and I hear hostages. The police station has been captured, and many people have been shot. I am very scared. I really hope we win. Am Yisrael Chai. Thank you.